Time having arrived, I call the Standing Committee on Finance for Monday, March 7th, 7 p.m. to order. Madam Clerk, we're going to start with item number 2.
Reappointment of James Duquette, 260 Torrey Street, Brockton, Mass. As a constable of Brockton for a term of 3 years. Invited, James Duquette.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of this committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear here tonight. My name is James Duquette. I am a lifelong resident of this city of Brockton. I own a home here on Torrey Street. I've been a constable since 2005 in this city. It is my most fond wish to be of service to this community. I always endeavor to remain knowledgeable in this position. I take the role of constable very seriously. I must also divulge to this committee that I am an employee of the city of Brockton, and I am aware of the connotations of this on my role as constable. I always endeavor to use my time that I work for the city solely for that purpose and not engage in any other purpose such as constable work. And I'm also aware to not engage in any conflict of interest whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Councilors, just for the record and for the folks at home, we're going to take item number 1 at the end. The person being invited to be appointed, Mr. Ulysses, is not yet here, so we're going to give him the rest of the meeting to try and get here. Thank you.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $75,000 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation to City of Brockton Parks and Recreation Department. These funds will be used for the improvement for Danny Goodwin Playground. Invited, Timothy Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, councilors. So this is an earmark in the current state fiscal year budget for improvements to Danny Goodwin Playground, which is just outside of East Junior High. No match required.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full council.
Second.
Is there something on the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. Carpenter, how are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
A quick question. We had discussed several months ago with the possibility of doing something with the fields at East Junior High in terms of, looking into putting together a plan so that we can transfer one of the soccer complexes that we had discussed from somewhere else in the city onto that new facility. Have you done anything in terms of putting together some sort of a rendition, some designs or anything like that towards that project?
So we are currently working on that. This would be separate and outside of that, but that is definitely still something that's on the radar, yes.
No, but the reason why I'm asking is that you're going to put in $75,000 into that complex. So if you're putting $75,000 into that complex, and there's also a need to redo the entire complex, wouldn't it make sense to somehow basically lay out all the work that needs to be done before something gets done and then gets ruined by the project?
So the areas are fairly well defined on the property itself, and the way that the order was written through the state, it's very specific. Part of the funds need to be spent on a shade structure along the basketball courts as well as play equipment. So unfortunately, the way that the order was written through the state, we can't really utilize those funds outside of those specific project.
That's not what I was saying. I was saying you've got some funds that are specifically for the playground.
Correct.
Use it for the playground.
Yep.
But I'm saying if the entire complex is being redone, wouldn't it make sense to make sure you have your complete plans of what the new playground, the whole complex is going to look like before moving forward and doing some things and then have to go through the process of, I'm not against this, by the way, I just want to make sure you know that.
No,
But I'm just saying, if there's a phase one and a phase two for the grounds, and phase one is this, wouldn't you want to make sure that you've got the plans in place for phase two, since some of us really want to see if we can kind of get moving on phase two as soon as possible?
So phase two, specifically the possibility of that soccer field, is again in a pretty well-defined separate area than where any play equipment would go. If we were to develop the area for the potential soccer field, that entire area would be taken up with that space. So this is for sort of the front end of that property. So the two are wholly separate in terms of any shared space.
So so let me go back and say, I know that's not part of the order here that we're discussing. So when do you envision moving forward with phase two of that project?
Hopefully, you know, if we can get everything taken care of, there could be the possibility of looking towards the fall of this coming year to get things started down that pipeline of having that ready.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Nacastro?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you for being here. And I know that on the state form, there's a brief description of what these funds are to be used for. Just for the listening audience, give us a brief explanation.
So primarily, these funds were fought for, received by State Representative Dubois. And one of the things that in her visits to Danny Goodwin and the basketball courts that she noticed was the amount of sunlight that the new basketball court that we installed 2 years ago gets, specifically in the area designated for spectators to play. So one of the things that she would like to see done is a removable shade structure so that in the spring we can put it up when the courts are most heavily utilized and taken down in the fall to prevent any damage during the winter months. So it wouldn't be a permanent structure. It would be more like, for lack of a better term, a large umbrella to cover the players' area. These funds will also obviously go towards some new play equipment and possibly some outdoor exercise equipment, which is sort of a new trend in playground development, is actual outside exercise equipment.
Sounds terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Carpenter.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to thank both you and our state representative, Representative Dubois, for putting in an earmark for this type of play structure. So just question about the synergies between the city and our state delegation when requesting these types of grants or earmarks. Do we have a master plan of the Danny Goodwin playground that, can be funded, yearly through these types of earmarks from the state, and that we're just kind of checking the boxes as we go down, or are you requesting these types of structures from the state, or is Representative Dubois coming to you saying, I'm bringing this to you? Like, how does that work?
So Danny Goodwin Playground has sort of been a pet project for Representative Dubois for quite a number of years now. And we've done sort of systematically address needs over there. There were 2 existing basketball courts over there. She got some funding, and we made what we're calling the championship court. It's sort of separate from the other 2. It's got the brand-new high-tech backboards, brand-new pavement. So it's sort of been Representative Dubois approaching me about what are the needs over there. Now, we're getting to the point where, we've installed new swing sets over there. We've installed some new play equipment over there over the past couple of years. So we are quickly approaching the point where there's not going to be a need for too much more in terms of the playground itself. So we've done a pretty good job at improving just about all areas of that front half of that property.
Okay, understood. And I I drive by this property almost daily, and I see that third basketball court throughout the spring and summer is packed. And so we really appreciate the added athletic facility over there at East Middle School, and we appreciate your efforts. So thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilors, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? All right, thank you.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $50,000 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation to City of Brockton Parks and Recreation Department. These funds will be used for the improvements for Gilmore Playground. Invited Timothy Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Mr. Superintendent, welcome
Good
back.
evening, good evening, long time no see. So again, this is an earmark. This one was put into the budget through Representative Cassidy, and again, it's this fiscal year, and it's $50,000. The one thing I will mention is that this is for Old Gilmore Playground, which is actually located on Spring Street. It's not at the Gilmore School.
Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening again. As you know, I asked Rep. Cassidy, I think I hounded him for these funds, and I'm hoping that there will be funds in future years to spruce up this playground. As you and I have discussed, it could be a phased effort. This playground, for my colleagues who don't know, it's on the corner of Grove and Spring Avenue. And did you tell me it used to be called the Spring Avenue Playground? Someone told me that today.
So this is one of the many parks in the city that has multiple names,
Yes.
and we refer to it in my department as Spring Avenue Park.
Yes. And there are neighbors who are very fond of it and clean it every day and empty the trash and all that, which is wonderful. Just give us a summary of what we can do, what $50,000 can do for this park.
So $50,000 is a lot of money to me and to you. However, in the playground improvement world, it's actually not a lot of money. There are some not so glamorous things, to be honest, that need to be done over there. There is a tremendous amount of fencing work that needs to be done over there. I would say somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 worth of fence work. The swing set that is over there has probably been there since, I'm going to say, the mid-'80s. I'd like to replace that and bring it into the new standards, both ADA and escape route safety compliance. And there's some older climbing structures over there. They're smaller, but again, they're probably late 70s, early 80s, and we'd like to modernize those. So, as you said, this is probably a phased approach. The most expensive part of doing any project rehabilitation is usually the surfacing underneath the play equipment. Easily, the surfacing could eat up the entire $50,000. So there are some sort of ways around that. There's some new combination of wood chips and rubber mats that have been approved recently that are both ADA compliant and fall height compliant. So again, there are some not so glamorous things that you don't get a lot of recognition for, like fence work. You and I had discussed possibly resealing the existing asphalt area there, painting in some hopscotch, some Foursquare. I know that when we received money in, I'm going to say 8 to 10 years ago, to do some work in that park, it was HUD money at the time. The neighbors had said that they did not want the basketball court to be rebuilt over there, and I would comply by that wish to this day. So, I think we can reutilize that area. And the other thing, again, not the most glamorous, is we really need to put in some permanent trash receptacles over there, and not just the blue barrels that seem to grow feet and walk away weekly.
Something that looks nicer than the barrels.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, that's well. And colleagues, just so that you know, next week I'll be making a motion to amend this order to reflect that it is for improvements to the old Gilmore Playground. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably?
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Ordered that the following named sum be the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as followed. Transfer of $15,000 from animal control personal services other than overtime to animal control personal services overtime. This transfer is necessary to supplement overtime spending due to the department being down an animal control officer position. Invited, Thomas DeCellis, Director of Animal Control, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, councilors. I come before you tonight. I'm requesting a $15,000 transfer to carry us through to the remainder of the fiscal year. Currently, we are down to $193 in the account. Primarily, this is due, we were down an animal control officer, which we just filled the position on January 31st. That person is now in a training period. Also, COVID hit our department pretty hard, along with other employees utilizing various times off. So it was pretty much a perfect storm this year. So that's why I come before you tonight.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, councilors. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Ordered that the following named sum be and the same hereby appropriated as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Appropriation of $7,000 from ARPA Fund, $7,000 to Public Property COVID Bonus, $7,000 for purposes of funding the Brockton Building and Construction Trades Contract. This appropriation provides funding for 3 years, July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022 of a 3-year contract. Invited, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, councilors. Troy is out of the country, so I am filling in as your budget director. If you have any questions regarding this item, I am happy to answer for you. This is fiscally funded, just like all of the other union contracts that were settled through June 30th.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Ordered that the City of Brockton appropriate the amount of $3,633,858 for the purpose of paying costs of purchasing 3 fire apparatus and the payment of costs incidental or related thereto. To meet the appropriation, the city treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under GLC 4471 or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. Further ordered that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify under GLC 44A any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by this vote and to provide such information and execute such documents as the Municipal Finance Oversight Board of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts may require. Invited, Martin Brophy, Treasurer, Brian Nardelli, Fire Chief, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Chief, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. President. Good evening, I'm sorry. Good evening, councilors. Thank you for having me here to talk about this. This is something that began back in the fall in conversations with the mayor and the CFO about some of our aging fleet. The Brockton Fire Department has done tremendous work in the past years in acquiring assistance to firefighter grants from FEMA. As we acquire those grants, one of the things that happens is when you put the information into the computer doesn't always kick it out favorably because we have, say, one newer piece of apparatus, but we have 2 more that are aging. So that, in a way, hurts us. So although we've gotten a lot of bang for our buck out of the FEMA grants in the past few years, we're actually getting to that point. If you notice, we just purchased a brand new heavy rescue to replace the TSU that we just received that we put an order in on 2 years ago, that truck was aging, but we only had one of them, so it didn't make a difference. What happens with a lot of these grants is the information goes into a computer, it's graded, and when that money, when sometimes it doesn't make it out to human eyes. That's just the way FEMA works in the federal government, and there's really not much we can do about that. As this has gone on, I have inherited 3 pieces of fire apparatus that are actually quite older now. When you look up through the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 1901, they actually suggest replacing fire apparatus with an average department every 15 to 20 years. That's an average fire department. This is no average fire department. When we look at per capita and the amount of calls we respond on every year, they're grossly above throughout the entire country, to be quite honest with you. We always meet or exceed the highest levels of, through any publication, Fire Engineering, Firehouse Magazine, whatever you're looking at, national run standards because of the amount of calls we're going on. And I was explaining earlier, that's awesome because one of the greatest things about that is we're able to arrive. Someone calls, and that's the greatest thing about the fire service, especially here in the city of Brockton. We just happen to show up. So why am I telling you all this? As the apparatus ages, it gets beat up very badly. Number of fires, number of calls. So the 3 pieces of apparatus that we're looking to replace, Squad A out of 42 Pleasant Street, it's one of the busiest squad companies in the country. When you look at national run surveys, running in excess of 4,500 runs a year. The other one is Ladder Company 2, another one over 2,000 runs a year, Ladder Company 4, over 2,000 runs a year, but that used to be Ladder 1, which ran over 4,000 runs a year. We just moved some trucks around to kind of relax the strain on those other vehicles. So if I look at my numbers, Squad A was purchased through community block grant money back in 2003. This piece of apparatus doesn't have an operating generator anymore. It's had multiple motor upgrades, multiple frame upgrades. It's been in 2 major motor vehicle accidents that were not our fault. Ladder Company 2, down at Campello, is a 2006 mid-mount aerial with a bucket. The city of Brockton, the size of the city of Brockton, we need a piece of apparatus like that. Because of the bucket, it gives us other versatility. This isn't a small town where we have to reach off the road. We have to reach big buildings. We have to get under in certain places, and that's why we have one of those mid-mount aerials, just so you understand that part of it. This piece of apparatus is quite honestly in dire straits. We did certify the aerial last year through NFPA 1901, but I don't know if that's going to continue moving forward. Part of the problem with that is the frame is beginning to basically wear and rust. And that's New England weather, a lot of it as well. So this is the truck that I originally had approached Troy about, and then seeing the other apparatus and really getting a good idea of where we were and where we needed to be. That became concerning. Ladder Company 4 is in 1995. This is the oldest piece of apparatus, active piece of apparatus we have in the fleet now. So when you're looking at apparatus of that age, you're also looking at this motor has been replaced 4 times in this vehicle. We've had 1 major frame build up. We've had 2 transmissions and major aerial repair on it, and it's still passing tests. This is, I always call it the workhorse of the Brockton Fire Department because as much as we beat it up, we have a great mechanical staff, and they're able to put it back together. That's only going to last so long, though. As we look at this, our concerns become is viability with this apparatus. When I approached them, I went to Allegis Fire Apparatus, who makes our PS apparatus, and we were able to actually look at what we could get on prices for these. A fire apparatus is not cheap, as we all know. You have my detailed letter, plus I would say you have the letter from Allegiance and what we received. One of the things that we looked at is how we could get some money off of these. One of the things you run into with the FEMA grants is the fact that you cannot pre-buy, meaning you have to pay in installments. That's how the federal government makes sure that they're getting what they pay for. They have to do inspections and they have to sign off on it. When you're purchasing them outright, we're able to purchase and pay the upfront money, get a bond, pay it upright, or if we had the cash lying around per se. But with that, we were able to get $108,000 savings of the overall cost of all of the vehicles. That, including the trade-ins, when trading in apparatus, 2 of the aerials will trade in, we'll get trade-in value about $7,500, mainly because of the age of the apparatus. Someone will use them, probably not in the fire service. They will be sold back out somewhere. And then Squad A would be traded in for about $5,000. In the end, what the bond would be for was about $3,633,858. That is with all those other things built in. We also got $30,000 off for buying 3 pieces of fire apparatus at the same time. So in communications with Troy and Tiffany over the last number of months, we had talked about this in the past as kind of getting not a revolving fund, but a fund where we could have money that we would then be able to purchase apparatus and be able to pay that bond. Because we're going to have to buy fire apparatus as it goes. This is approximate 15 to 20-year bond, and being able to now if we're able to put a line item into the budget, this will pay that on a regular basis. And that's the letter that I think that Troy provided for you. Outside of that, until July of the next fiscal year of 23, we do have EMS money that we're going to be able to jockey around to pay that bill outright. But I think purchasing these up front gets us some great savings. It's not as well as getting money from FEMA, from the federal government, unfortunately. We put in every year. We've put in this year for another one. But we're actually trying to refocus now because 2 years in a row we have been shot down for a ladder now. So now we're going to be replacing smaller items that still add up to a lot of money, but nothing that is necessarily a big ticket item, a big shiny fire truck. It's mobile radios and a number of intercommunication things. So that's where I stand in that regard. If you have any questions for me, obviously I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Councilor Mendez, and then Councilor Minichiello.
Hello.
Hi, Councilor. How are you?
I have a question for the budget director, for Tiffany. Could we use some of the ARPA money for purchases like this?
We did look into it. However, we cannot because it has to be, in order to use ARPA funds, it has to be directly related to the pandemic.
So this would not qualify for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
So as to the grant that he was talking about, what is the percentage that they're going to be paying into grants? Because
That I'm not sure of.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
as to the grant that we're getting for the purchases,
This would not be for a grant. This is
okay.
not a grant,
Just the
unfortunately.
bond.
Yeah, we myself and Deputy Chief Albanese, who does a lot of our grant work, we beg, borrow, and steal with these grants. I'll tell you, we just got the $50,000 to replace all our thermal images. Again, we put forward for an AFG grant to replace all the mobile radios and all the fire apparatus. There wouldn't be one with this, and that's why we're coming to you with what's such a large number.
just a final question. Are we able to get an itemized list of all the outstanding debts that the city has, so that way we know what this is going to fit and we know overall, like before Monday, so we can have an itemized list?
Yep.
And updated.
Yep, we can email that to everyone, too. Yep, and even if you look in the back of your budget book, under the debt section, there's a itemized list up until FY22, but we can give you one prior to setting this year's budget, too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Minichiello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief Nardelli, for being here. A couple of questions. With regard to delivery to the public of service, someone calls because of an emergency, a variety of things that it could be. How will this apparatus improve that service to people in what can be life or death situations in many instances?
Understood. So one of the things that fire apparatus manufacturers do now, which has really greatly improved over the years, is we're able to customize the apparatus. I was actually just with our Allegiance rep this morning going over these apparatus if this is able to go forward. If you go today, which there aren't a lot of cars out on the market, unfortunately, but if you were able to go today and go to a dealership, you walk in and you're going to get a certain color, you're going to get a certain this, and there's limited packages you can give. Fire apparatus are very customized. One of the advantages of replacing Ladder 2, when Ladder 2 was purchased, it was a large truck. If any of us know Campello, that runs out of the Campello section of the city. Anyone knows that Campello firehouse and the turns that piece of apparatus has to make in that neighborhood. It is incredible. This piece of fire apparatus is actually 7 feet shorter. You have no idea how many parked cars we've tapped or buildings we've tapped with the rear end of that vehicle that has now slowed down response times and a number of different things, and it's been obviously put on the city to then make those repairs. So that's one piece. This piece of apparatus as well, the one that would be down there, is, I call it the transformer fire truck. There are limitations to all fire trucks. We're far outside of the horse-drawn fire apparatus days. And as the years have grown and fire apparatus has innovated, this truck can actually, we have to level fire trucks out, not to bore you with the operations of a fire ground, but we have to level the fire truck. This leveling system in this truck could actually make it almost unlevel to be able to throw and put the bucket in a certain position. So this allows us, there are 4 departments, this is a newer piece of apparatus, there are 4 departments in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have them. We've visited them, and they're blown away by the technology that goes into this piece of apparatus. One other part with this apparatus, the aging technology of, you've all seen probably the years ago of tiller apparatus, where there's a driver in the back as well, shown on a famous Seinfeld episode. But this piece of apparatus, although it's not a tiller, it has what's called rear steer. And it's linked in so that as much as the apparatus turns in the front, the rear wheels just gauge just a touch. That, efficiency-wise, some of the bigger apparatus we go through tires at an alarming rate because the tires are being dragged around the corner. Anyone who's driven truck over the years knows how that happens. So this will actually reduce and make the apparatus even that more efficient in purchasing tires moving forward as well. So there are a number of things, especially in the Campello section. Now, Squad A, the pumper that will be replaced at Station 1 at 42 Pleasant Street, that piece of apparatus over the years, it's always just a standard engine we bought, and that is a specialty piece of apparatus that responds all over the city. What we were able to do is configure the compartments where we have different pullouts and drawouts, because we've already designed these apparatus so we're able to move forward. The build-out time for these now are upwards of 18 months just because of the shortages of raw materials. So being able to customize these and make them more efficient on the fire ground is our biggest thing. If we're doing that, we're putting the customer really forward, because we're able to do things a heck of a lot quicker than we were in the past just with this type of apparatus.
And as a follow-up to that, how will the equipment also improve the health and safety and keeping our firefighters, out of harm's way? Or let's put it this way, better when how will it improve from today as opposed to when there's delivery of that apparatus with regard to our firefighters?
So I can honestly tell you that's a great question, and I say that because when I started on this fire department 25 years ago, they didn't even have seatbelts in fire trucks. Now, you can move the fire truck without the seatbelts being put on, but there's a million alarms, bells, and whistles. Not to mention the clean cab theories that we're moving towards now of keeping carcinogens out of the cabs. Everything has its place in the cab now, so their gear is going in compartments almost in the cab, so that we're reducing carcinogens, and we see the whole push now with PFAS chemicals that are found in firefighters' gear and firefighting foam. So these will keep. Not to mention the alloy frames that these trucks are built on now are night and day compared to what the Macs were when I first came onto this department. Just structurally wise and protection wise, rollover protection, and a number of different things like that.
Thank you, Chief Nardelli. Appreciate it.
All right. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Chief Nardelli.
Good evening,
Thank you for
Councilor.
being here. So I have your letter to Mr. Clarkson dated February 8th, and it looks like the Squad A engine is 19 years old. The Ladder Company 2 engine is 16 years old, and Ladder Company 4 is 27 years old. Wow, you got your money's worth out of that one.
We did.
And how long will the term of these loans be?
We're looking at 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20?
That's correct, yes.
So, in some instances, the loans may last longer than the engines, if I'm to, judge it by what the track record of these 3 engines.
I would have to I understand exactly what you're getting at, Counselor. I think one of the things to keep in mind, though, the apparatus is built differently. It's built more durable now. If you look nationwide, fire departments are getting longer use out of their fire apparatus. I know our call volume is excessive. There's no question. But what I've seen in talking to chiefs all over the place, cities our size, not smaller towns, talking to the chief in Lowell, talking to the chief in Cambridge, talking to the chief in Fall River. I think we've all seen that the way the apparatus is built more efficiently, just the simple things like the rear steer, that's saving axle use, that's saving, it's allowing the truck to move more efficiently, and saving wear and tear on the apparatus.
Okay. And I love hearing about the detail about how you're getting this discount and that discount and this, and the trade-in value. I'm shocked at how low the trade-in value of the existing engines are, but it's better than nothing, right?
It is. It is. You know, it's unfortunate. We kind of did a, we're trading in a truck that we had on a loaner for a number of years, and they're giving us more money than I thought we would be able to get on that one. The other ones, I think it's just, they're not going to be able to sell. They're going to make a profit when they resell them. There's no question about that. But they're not going to be able to sell them for probably much more than that anyways, without putting a lot of work into them. I mean, our mechanics, I don't know if I could bring you over to the shop sometime. Our mechanics are incredible. They do incredible work every day. They basically rebuild fire trucks at some points. They have all the certifications there are. And for a number of years, these three vehicles, they've really, especially ladder 4 with, you know, frame rebuild, 2 transmissions, 4 motors. They have done incredible work with what they've done over the years. But, you know, it's like any car. You got to trade it in after a while because you're putting too much. I have a 2011 F-150, and my wife continues to tell me, you got to stop putting money into it because it's not making any sense anymore. So that's kind of the point we're at. And another big part, I know I had spoken to you about, the big concern, too, is, you know, we're at a point where with interest rates, with this borrowing, if we put this off for a few years, I can't assure you, I don't think any of us in this room would even think interest rates were going to be where they were. It's simply because of the economic times we're in. They're going to have to do something to balance this economy out. So I think we got to strike while the iron's hot and do it while we can so we can get the best bang for our buck.
Well, when you look at what's recently been happening in the stock market, reflecting what's happening in the world, you do have to move quickly because the interest rates are going to change. Tell us about how long it will take to take delivery from when you place the order.
So if this was to go through and all the paperwork got squared away and we were able to, next week, it went through the full city council. They are drawing up contracts. It's just paper. They're drawing up contracts now for me. I actually gave Ray Smith, our Allegiance rep, marching orders this morning to draw up contracts for these pieces of apparatus. We're looking from contract signed, we're looking at 18 months. Wow. Again, this goes to the entire process with the shortages in raw materials are ridiculous right now. I would hope it's going to be longer than that, but one of the things that's built into a lot of these contracts is penalty clauses. If they don't get it to us, say they give us 12 months of that they're going to have the piece of apparatus from contract signed, 12 months to delivery. If they don't have that signed, they pay somewhere upwards, depending on the piece of apparatus and the price, you're looking $200 to $300 a day in penalties. So with this shortage in raw supply, departments all over the country have been basically saying, okay, pay up to the apparatus companies now because you owe us this many days. So what they basically did was said, we're not guaranteeing anything before 18 months. We're not giving you the 12-month mark. It's always been a 12-month mark. They're giving us 18 months now only because they don't want to have to pay penalties in the end, and that's what we have to eat. They may come in earlier. There's no guarantees, though. I mean, we just had to replace a cable in that one of the aging ladders that makes the ladder go up and down. They ended up having to take the cable that makes the ladder move off a piece of apparatus on the assembly line. That's how backed up in raw materials they are right now. They didn't have any in stock at the Smeal dealership. So yeah, we're looking at 18 months, I would say, is at our latest.
So you've got to get the order in.
I'm sorry?
You have to get the order in.
We do.
I understand.
We do. We're moving. I'm just waiting. I got to get it going, right?
I echo Councilor Mendez's concern about our outstanding debt. And I just wanted to say, Tiffany, I really hope you do get us a list of outstanding debt and bond obligations. I note that this tonight's, or approval of this order to raise these funds, to spend them in this way, it's contingent on a line item in the next fiscal year's budget. Do you want to speak to that for a moment?
Yes, so we, the CFO and I had discussed this. The city of Brockton has never had a replacement policy in effect. And we discussed back in the fall how we could do that. One of the things we've run into every time we have to replace a piece of fire apparatus, we have to come before council and say, we need a piece of fire apparatus. And then everybody's got to scramble to figure out how we're going to pay for it. What we looked at was, if we're able to get this in there, that line in there, that will pay for the fire apparatus moving forward. After this 15 years, as long as that line item stays in there, we'll be able to continually replace our fleet. And that's what we're looking. That's going to be probably long after I'm gone, but I think we're trying to set the department up for the future. So next chiefs aren't dealing with that. I mean, you go back to the London clothing flyer years ago down at Campella where the auto parts store is now. They had the building fall on ladder company too, and they had to come to the mayor the next day and say, we need a ladder. And then it had to emergency spending right away. These things, unfortunately, we don't want to be in that position. What this will do is this, especially with the ladder trucks, this is going to leave us with a very good spare. That workhorse that we talked about on the east side, that will actually be one of the pieces of apparatus that will not be traded in, but will be part of this deal. That will be a great spare ladder truck for us. So.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to mention to our colleagues, in their packet last week, we received a letter from the CFO certifying that we can afford this borrowing. And so that's reassuring. Thank you very much, Chief.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tavares.
All right, actually, I have a question for the budget, actually. Hi, yes. How much long-term debt the city is currently have right now?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How much the current term debt the city have right now?
How much? Short-term?
Long-term.
Long-term? I don't have the exact figures in front of me. That is something that I will give to you guys tomorrow on the itemized list.
Okay.
It lists all of the short-term and the long-term debt with the total down at the bottom.
Okay.
And I'll give that to you guys tomorrow.
All right, that's all.
No side, Councilor?
Yeah.
Yep. Councilor D'Agostino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is actually for the budget director. No, that's fine. So a couple of things. First, I want to clarify that I'm looking at what I think I'm looking at. It looks like you're showing us a 15-year option and a 20-year option on each piece of apparatus, correct?
Yes.
And are you planning to go in a particular direction at this point? Are you which way are you going on that?
We just wanted to show you a clear picture of what it would look like if we did choose the 15-year or the 20-year, what the total would be for the debt at the bottom.
So you don't know if you're going to do 15 or 20. The only reason I ask, and obviously the payments are noticeably higher, of course, for the 15-year, but it looked like a $300 to $400 interest savings over, the term of the bond. So I was just curious if you knew what direction the CFO was planning to go.
I can't answer that for him at the moment. It depends what our overall budget looks like when we narrow that down in the coming months.
Okay. All right. Is that something we could possibly get a read on
Sooner rather than later?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great to know that. And then the other thing, the chief brought up the issue of basically every time we need these big ticket items, it's always, all right, we have to bond it, how do we pay for it? I was wondering if, and forgive me if this is already in the works, I'm, fairly new to the council, so is there in the works a capital needs plan that is being looked at citywide, not just for fire, but police have needs, schools have needs, parks has needs. I mean, every department has capital needs. Are we working on a plan that's going to come forward, sometime in the not too distant future so that we can do this better than,
Yeah.
basically plan for these things instead of waiting until they blow up.
Yes. By ordinance, the CFO is required to submit a 6-year capital plan to the council. We were on track to submit that last year, but then COVID obviously hit. But we are on track to submit that to you guys this year. And it is something that we are working on, and we will be submitting to you guys.
This fiscal or calendar?
Fiscal.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for you, Chief, and I only had 2 quick questions. One was already answered regarding the delivery dates of these apparatus, but I wanted to go back to something you were saying earlier about FEMA grants and that these apparatus did not qualify for FEMA grants, and I believe you said something to the effect of, I'm going to paraphrase that, as our equipment becomes newer, we're less likely to get grants.
Yes.
So these, again, would affect our future ability to get grants due to the newness of this apparatus.
Yes.
So the city, when it comes at least to these large ticket apparatus items, we're in the future more or less likely to receive grants, and we'll have to pay for it through our own funds.
So, yeah, yes and no, but there are other parts. It's not just for fire apparatus. So the radios we put in for is, I want to say, we're in excess of a couple of $100,000 we would receive. This would have to come out of the city budget if we didn't do it. The FCC has this whole narrow banding project where they're changing, and so you have to change your radios. We're under those rules, so this will actually get us advanced almost 5 years in our radio technology if we're able to get this grant. So although we're not getting the big shiny red fire truck maybe from a grant, we are getting other things that are going to be definitely needed. So, you know, one of the things every year when these AFG grants come up, myself along with my command staff of the deputies, we sit down and we talk about our priorities, what we've put into the capital project that Councilor D'Agostino was asking about. And we sit down and go over all of our items and we see, okay, you know what, I think would be good maybe applying AFGs on these, but this might have to go into the capital plan. And we balance that. So to get back to your question though about as the apparatus as we buy new apparatus, there's still stuff that's aging. So engine 2 and engine 3 on North Main Street and engine 2 down at Campello, those are 2013 pieces of apparatus, 2013. We're already 11 years into that apparatus. So as we buy new, we're also aging on the other side. Smaller towns work out with this stuff a lot because they might have one ladder truck. So they don't have anything to compare it to, so they have a better chance of getting that AFG grant. When you have more apparatus, like say we have to have here in Brockton, that scale tips to not in our favor as we age, as we get newer stuff, but stuff is aging at the same time. So there's definitely a balance with that, but there are a number of things we can put in for through those AFG grants. The state has really stepped up greatly in the last couple of years as well. Like I was before you last week, like I said, for the $50,000 no match safety equipment grant. They've been great. So we can get some small ticket items from them as well, and we've been very successful. Just our SAFE grant to go into the schools has gone up a little bit every year because we've been successful in putting that money in. So there are other pieces to get those grants from. AFG is awesome. We had a real good friend and a gentleman by the name of Dave Parr who worked for FEMA, and he was a great advisor for us. He was our district representative for FEMA, and he was really awesome with us in helping us applying for our grants as well to kind of get us on the right road. Like the rescue to replace the TSU. We made one phone call to him and said, hey, this is one you should probably look at. Well, that truck was aging. We were going to have to replace it anyways. We weren't going to do it right away, but hey, you know what? We got a grant and we were able to replace it in a much nicer, ergonomical truck that's part of the 5-year plan to try to get trucks restaffed in the city from the layoffs of '91. So there is a plan moving forward, but sometimes you have to weigh that scale when you're dealing with grants.
Understood, and thank you for the explanation, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Teixeira.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief, to be here before us. My question is, you say you got a truck that's 27 years old, huh?
Yeah.
How's the structure, the safety, because this is about safety?
It is safe. Obviously, It meets a different standard than the new trucks coming out today because it's grandfathered. It's safe, it has seat belts, it has all of the equipment it needs. These trucks have to meet requirements every year when we have the aerial tested. We have, and ladder 1 and ladder 4 are going to be getting tested next week. They have to be tested annually to make sure that that ladder is safe. All our mechanics all have to have certain certifications just to be able to work on these ladders, just to be able to work on these pumping engines, all this different stuff. They go through classes. I was just at a conference last week for fire chiefs, and there were a number of mechanics there taking a class in another room to become certified. So safety standards are all there. You know, they have to meet a very, very specific goal when they're doing these. So the safety is there with these trucks. They're grandfathered to a different safety. Do I feel comfortable every day putting the men and women of the Brockton Fire Department in them? Absolutely, I do, because I have faith in the company offices and especially the mechanics that maintain them.
All right, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I'd like to motion to recommend this favorably to
Second.
the entire City Council.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $5,605 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Office of Grants and Research, Fiscal Year 22 Community Safety Projects Grant Program, to City of Brockton Police Department, Fiscal Year 22 Community Safety Projects Grant Program. Invited Steve Williamson, Interim Chief of Police, Michelle St. James, Grant Coordinator, Brockton Police Department, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, councilors. The Community Safety Projects Grant has a focus of improving bicycle and pedestrian safety and/or child passenger safety through non-enforcement means. We actually initially applied for this in December of 2019. And on March 25th, 2020, we got a lovely little email from EOP saying, hey, we selected you for funding, but there's this pandemic thing. So we're going to have to hold off on having any activity. And those were still the innocent, hopeful days at the very beginning. And we thought we would be up and running in August. And then clearly that didn't happen. So we thought this grant was done. And then in January, we got a call from EOP saying, hey, we're looking at redoing this. You don't have to apply again, but will your budget work? And so what we're going to be doing is 2 events that are a combination of child passenger safety and instruction of youth in the rules of the road for both being a pedestrian and riding a bike. So we'll have the bike unit talking to kids while our child passenger safety technicians are installing seats for families. And we're going to be able to leverage other grants with this. So we have seats, car seats from Buckle Up for Life, so we'll be able to give them to families in need and install them on the spot. And at the same time, with funds from this grant, we'll be able to buy bicycle lights to give to kids, because I don't know if you drive at night much, if you see how many kids are riding bikes without lights, it's pretty bad. But we'll also be using from our municipal road safety grant the reflectors that we're able to buy and the resource cards that have rules of the road for pedestrians and bicyclists that are geared toward youth. So we'll be able to give those out to kids too. That way we can make the most of the funding that we get.
Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Attorney St. James. Thanks for explaining that to us. And you have to spend these funds by June 30th?
No, we have until September 15th to spend these.
According to the terms?
Yes.
Okay. And, geez, maybe you could hand out things to children that say, don't pollute.
We could certainly do that. That would be pretty easy to print up at the department. So yeah, we could absolutely do that. And we'll make sure that the officers, talk about that too.
It would be a wonderful thing to add.
Sure.
I think children are secret weapons in such matters. Thank you very much. This is terrific. Found money.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Ms. St. James. This isn't a lot of money. I mean, we're grateful for it, but just a quick question. When you do these programs, are you collaborating with our public schools? Is that how?
For this, we're actually looking to go with Old Colony Y and Boys and Girls Club. Split it up between the two.
Okay,
Do
perfect.
1 day each. Yeah.
Perfect. I don't know if any of my colleagues have any other questions, but I was going to recommend this favorably back to the full City Council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Madam Clerk, I think we're back to item number 1.
Appointment of Marcelin Ulysses, 10 Longworth Avenue, Unit 9, Brockton, Mass., as a constable in the city of Brockton for a term of 3 years. Invited Marcelin Ulysses.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to continue this till the next finance meeting.
Second.
All right, Counselor, were you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform the council that I'm going to recuse myself on this item. Mr. Ulysses was a former client, and also I signed his recommendation letter to become a constable, so I will sit this one out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, motion's been made and seconded to postpone this to the next Finance Committee. All in favor? All opposed? All right. The item is postponed. Councilors, are there any moments of council's recognition? Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to announce that this Thursday, March 10th, Brockton firefighters Local 144 will be commemorating the 81st anniversary of the Strand Theater fire, in which 13 firefighters lost their lives. This solemn remembrance will take place here at City Hall on Thursday at 10 a.m. So we'll hopefully see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. This is not something I usually do, but this week, my younger son, Benjamin, is going to be turning 25, and I can't believe he's turning 25. It seems like yesterday he was just born. He is a great young man. I love being his mother, and so I just want to, in advance, wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I can remember when I turned 25. Counselors, if there's no other business, Counselor Teixeira.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take a moment of silence for the trooper that we lost on 93. And it was a class of 85. My son graduated with this trooper, so I just want to take a moment on behalf of this trooper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselors, I neglected to mention this at the beginning. I do apologize. Counselor Farwell was a little under the weather, so he was unable to attend this evening. No other business. We are adjourned.